Hello everyone, this is Jay High from Custom Keyboard, back at it with another topic video. I was recently aware of this event that happened. It was the SoCal Melee Arcadian for 2026 and had 144 entrants, and Holka ended up being the winner. Now, I think this is pretty cool. Arcadians have not been quite as popular as they used to be, but this is still pretty good turnout. And then it was, a somewhat notable player finally getting their flowers, stuff like that. But I think it kind of, there's possibility for kind of this larger discussion about Arcadians. Now, I had heard of the term for a while now. I think it was popularized back in like the 2015 part of Smash history, around there, maybe a little earlier. But it pretty much came from. I realized that 300 has an impact because it was also something else. I forget exactly. Was influence on Melee from 300, but I think it was one unit. Yeah, that was it. But either way, Arcadians in 300 were kind of like these amateurs. They were people that were not quite as good as the original the soldiers, but could still be impressive in some kind of way. That was kind of adopted into Smash as an opportunity for people that are a little bit lower on the totem pole to be able to get to like higher parts of bracket without getting knocked out. Because in bracket, you have you tie with more people, the more players there are. So if you had 32 players, the bottom 16, you only have them in 2 rounds. Well, if you just took out the top 16, you'd have 13th, 9th, 7th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, all the way up. There's a level of differences there, more than just 2 rounds. You have a lot more variety there. Now, I think there was some kind of fun stuff. Like I remember some of these trailers for the NorCal Arcadian. NorCal was popping. I think they hit 300 entrants one time. But more locally to me, a lot of them were more Ultimate and Smash 4 based. North Carolina usually has a pretty good Arcadian. They've hit in the hundreds for a while now. I remember there was a discussion about players being eligible. Because players that I knew that lived right on the North Carolina-Virginia border, like maybe 30 minutes above it, that are very far away from Nova and Xanadu and all that, were invited to participate. People were like, oh, they're not even from our state. And it's like, all right, they're like barely above the border, and they, might go to like Southwest and Central Virginia stuff, but not nearly, they would also go to North Carolina stuff. But yeah, like I think that Arcadians have been successful for a while now. MDVA Ultimate Arcadians usually have to be capped. This one was a little bit smaller, but I mean they've been at 256 like 5 times or something like that. It's been pretty big. Now, I became aware during Smash 4 that Arcadians, they don't have to be kind of like regional. Virginia Tech had an Arcadian for their city, and that was pretty unusual, but it was also pretty interesting because they had a pretty tight-knit scene, and they had people that had been ranked, and then they wanted to give you another chance. Now, you can argue that this is a little bit overdoing it, but I like the idea, and so during Ultimate we started doing it. Now, this was a kind of a wacky event. We had a 64 and we didn't have a single setup. We tried to do. We had a lot of. So like pro-am doubles is when a pro player or PR player for us teams with a unranked player. We also did a waterfall thing, and that did not quite. That took a long time. So this is kind of like probably one of my rougher brackets I've ran. But we did it later on. Did singles, did doubles. This was just the Ultimate portion. We did Melee at a different day. We also had a PR singles bracket. And then there's been some national Arcadians. Like Main Stage had this one where there was like a series of qualifiers. They did an Ultimate, and then they did a top 16 kind of invitational style. And it was a pretty interesting bracket there. And also we see let's make moves, whether it be in big moves in Tri-State or Miami down in Florida. They try and do some national Arcadian stuff. There used to be a national Arcadian for Melee that like people would really try and go to. It was like really contentious. It's been a little bit more of like a side event, but I think that's okay. So let's kind of get into the positive and negatives of Arcadians. I do think that they are good, but they are pretty rare in terms of all of like competitive gaming. As far as I know, they're only in Smash. Maybe I think I saw one on like Brawlhalla. There's another platform fighter based on 1v1. I think they work best for singles games. You know, maybe doing some pro am doubles on the side. But one thing I saw recently is my Hornets was able to get a clutch win over the Heat to stay in the play-in phase. That's something to let's hope they can get another win on Friday. But that's something that's been kind of mentioned a lot is there too much opportunity for success when you didn't earn it in the regular season? To where it's like they allow 10 out of 15 on one side, so 20 out of 30 teams get a chance at the postseason. People think that that's too much and it's not rewarding excellence. I think it's cool. I mean, the games are exciting. But there's kind of like this attitude of excellence. We also have like relegation for European soccer to where it's like, hey, if you're doing worse, you bump down, you make less money, you get less of a stage. There's also like minor leagues, like, you know, the G League for basketball. You have like single A through triple A for baseball. You have also college ball for a bunch of different sports. So there's kind of this like, okay, if you are not at that level, then there's a different way for you to compete. Intramural sports, that kind of stuff. I think that Arcadians are useful because ultimately the goal of a TO is to get people to attend your event. So sometimes it feels like this, to where you can advertise a bracket, and if you put Arcadian in front, you're going to get so many more people. And one thing that I started doing is I would have an Arcadian and then I have a normal singles bracket, to where sometimes it was labeled PR bracket, but really, like, I mean, hey, it counts for PR. That's kind of, you know, the double entendre there. And people were like, oh, well, how come they get two brackets and we get one? We're punished for being good. And it's like, you usually are in, like, you sometimes are in the money. Like, you're on the PR graphic. Like, I don't think that everything needs to be catered to you. Like, this is one time a semester where we give other people an additional chance to get those wins. And people sometimes were like, oh, I was not very good at Ultimate. I was ranked in some other games, but I never got ranked in Ultimate, so I was eligible for the Ultimate Arcadian, so I kind of had skin in the game. It's like, look, I never won an Arcadian. I think the best I got was a second out of like a 7-man Arcadian. Like, I never quite got there, so I would disagree with that. But I think that Arcadians are good for getting people to attend, but you have to be careful. Some of these events that have a ton of entrants, even if it's $5 or $10 entry, you know, it can be a very large prize pool. It can be really crazy in terms of the money being made. These 256-man MBVA Arcadians, I mean, if they're $10 entries, that's $2,500 up at stake. Like, that's hard to make. And a lot of people live in that area, so it was like, why would I get PR if I'm probably not going to make that much money from, like, maybe I'll make top 3 at you know, the ladder or something. But that's not going to bring home the bacon. Like, I should not get ranked so that I'm able to get this cash. This guy, Chris, he had gotten top 8 at his first Arcadian and then won eventually. And he was like, I should have just got second over and over, which is like, it's a little bit of, you know, collusion or you know, rigging yourself or whatever. But like, I kind of get it in a certain way. Some people, even locally, it's like, I haven't made a dime from this, but you're having it be paid entry, and I am incentivized to not get ranked. I mean, it's too late because he already was, but it's like, I don't get the chance to make money. I should have just done worse or attended less so that I could have made some of this money, because I would have won for free. And I think that's interesting because, like, you have to be careful with the incentives. I do think that while it's not as exciting at kind of this, where it's kind of just another bracket built in, to where like Ultimate you have 281 for For the Arcadian, you have 127. So a little bit under half the bracket, you have people that are just entering an additional singles bracket that's easier. For Melee, you have 112. National Arcadian, over half, 61. Which this is also pretty cool. Game & Watch, shout out. So I just made a Game & Watch video where I mentioned Walmart shoes. But I do think that having it be, even if it's $10 entry, or even $5, like I think you have to be careful not to over incentivize people to stop attending as much, to not want to get ranked so that they can benefit from it. I do think that, like, yeah, PR players can still do Pro-Am doubles, but you have to be careful not to make it to where, like, you're incentivizing people to not try as hard. Because ultimately, like, this is one tournament out of several in for a local scene. And, you know, I think I get why people would attend Arcadians pretty much exclusively, because a lot of times humans don't like to lose. They don't always want to get challenged as hard as possible, and even if they did, they probably would be ranked by now. So it's like you're kind of inviting some of the lowest effort people in Smash. I say, as a person who was unranked, I know I didn't put in effort and I got mad when I didn't get good. I'm like, dude, I'm not putting in effort to improve, so why am I expecting myself to do better? It's kind of like this ego, you know, gotta have ego death sometimes. But I do think that doing a split bracket between Arcadian, they call it P-Arcadian, where it's just the ranked players, that can be good. It can be like a mini invitational. But I think doing a normal singles bracket is also good. I think it just gives like a normal experience, because that's one thing about invitationals is that the players that go winless, they only they don't benefit from them being more players, or they don't benefit from there not being more players in the bracket. They would rather have it be more to where they at least get some wins against decent players. Instead, they go 0 and it looks like they just did poorly and only are harmed by it for their rank. So, and also region lock, that's something to where it's like, sometimes we had people that had never attended one of our events for Ultimate, and I was like they had come in Smash 4, and it was like, they weren't ranked. I was like, that's cool. And they ended up getting like 4th place or something, so it's not like they just came in and swooped in and got the money. But there are some times to where it's like, this feels like a little icky, where it's like, this is meant to be people that are grinding locally, and this is their chance to be on the big stage. But excuse me, that's kind of up to individual discretion. I mean, I think if you had the SoCal Arcadian, someone from NorCal or Pacific Northwest wants to come down for it, I would probably say no. You have enough players that locally want to enter it. But I mean, I also get, like, you know, one time I was allowed to go to the Virginia Tech Arcadian. I was ranked in Lynchburg, but I was still able to enter that because I wasn't ranked in Virginia Tech and I wasn't ranked in Southwest Virginia. There's also, like, sometimes I think NWA, they had to where they had a top 20, but they allowed 16 through 20 to enter the Arcadian. So it's like, I'm fine with doing a larger PR. I think people that are harsh on the side of PR need to get a hobby. But why are they on the PR but also get to enter? It's specifically for people that are not ranked. So that kind of felt like cake and eat it too type of thing. But ultimately, I do like Arcadians. You know, I've run probably like over 10 Arcadians for our city. You know, I've attended multiple Arcadians for MDVA, North Carolina. Like I've been there. I've supported them, followed them, watched them. I like it. It doesn't ultimately matter too much in the grand scheme for like rank and all that, but it's cool. Like you have, it's kind of like this meme to where it's classic, where it's like you have people that they'll have side bets. They might view people as animals that are, you know, just masters at the game, and not as good at them as them. But I think it's cool. I think the Arcadians are definitely a positive, but again, you have to be careful because I don't want there to be an incentive to show up less and not get ranked, because, you know, it's good to get ranked. That is a positive. I don't want that to turn to a negative. So ultimately, I want to see more Arcadians. I like Arcadians. I try and keep up with some. I know there's some like there's like a Minnesota Arcadian. I think they do some in like I think there's like a New Jersey Arcadian, like they do them all over. I do think that for a national Arcadian, it makes sense to do it alongside a major and have it alongside singles. But I think doing more PR level bracket stuff. It's sometimes difficult because okay, who are you gonna give the mainstream to? Um, but I think getting people involved, even if you need to, like if it becomes just a normal bracket with an additional thing to get people to come. Look, those are people that might pay the venue fee, might come back later. Like they get fifth place and they're like, I kind of like winning, so I want to come back and try and win a normal bracket. Like I think it's fine to incentivize people to attend your stuff. It's just I think you have to tread lightly because I think that for a healthy ecosystem, you don't want incentives to have someone attend less and to do worse. But I do like Arcadians, and I encourage you to, even if it's like for your city, try it out. If there's 5 people, run it. Who cares? Do a round robin, and then like a first place gets winner side of grands, and finish it out from there in losers bracket. Like that's fine. Who's gonna stop you? It's okay. I encourage you to find different ways of getting people to attend your stuff. Be a little creative. Sometimes attendees can be very fickle, and like if they're not catered to, they don't want to go. If you don't want to humble yourself and try and kind of stoop to their level to try and negotiate, that's on you. For me, I've had to humble myself in methodology to get people to attend, and sometimes it's worked. So yeah, it's kind of up to TO discretion, but I like Arcadians.